Good morning, everybody. It's Marg with Creative Stamping with Marg. It is Tuesday, June the 6th. This is our first video for June. And you can see on my desktop here, I have a flyer about Stampin' Up! Is having a designer series paper sale. For the whole month of June, 13 of their papers are on sale for 15% off. So today I decided we'd better be doing something using DSP. So I have a card today that I saw a demonstrator show on a video, and I really thought the concept was great, and it uses your designer series paper. Here's a couple of ideas that I've drawn out so that I can illustrate it before we get started. Using 12 by 12 DSP, her suggestion was cutting your DSP at the 4-inch mark, and you can do the whole sheet if you wanted. I'm just showing one strip. So you cut it at the 4-inch mark, and then you divide that strip into 3-inch pieces. So you get 4 pieces. So how she thought she would use that was, just demonstrate it very quickly. She used a piece. There's a piece that is 3 inches by 4 inches. She cut an extra piece of cardstock, a coordinating color with this. This one is Pretty Peacock, and this is the Fresh as a Daisy paper that I chose. She cut this piece 3 1/4 by 4 1/4, and she just layered it on, just giving it that edge like that. And she took her card. This is just a white card base, and she just put it on like that. And she said then you could just add your greeting, and I've already stamped something that says thanks, and you'd be done. Quick, very fast, very easy. And then of course you could use a piece of DSP on the inside if you wanted, and you could use a piece of DSP on your envelope, so that would use quite a bit of that DSP. So that was the premise of her cards. Now, of course, you can always do it with a 6 by 6 piece of DSP. There's your piece. You would cut it again at 4 and then divide that piece in half, giving you 2 3-inch pieces. So same thing, you'd be left with a 2-inch strip on the bottom, which of course you can always use for decorating the inside of your card or for another card. So what I ended up doing, and I'm going to show you, this is the card we're going to make today, but I'm going to step it up a little bit. And I did change it. I had a few other ideas. So I will just put this off to the side so you can see it. These are the 2 stamp sets I was using. I used Cheerful Daisies, and all I used out of Cheerful Daisies today was the die that cuts the label. So there's the label die right there, and that's what I cut this label with. And I stamped it from the Biggest Wish stamp set, and I used the thanks. So those are the 2 stamp sets I used in dies. I also am using the deckled rectangles. You know how much I love those. And I took a piece of Lost Lagoon. This is one of our new colors. And I embossed it with Time Worn Type just to give it some interest. And it is 4 by 5 1/4. I am going to lay it on my card like this. This is just a plain white, basic white card base, sorry. And I have cut it at 4 1/4 by 11, scored it at 5 1/2. It is going to open this way, only because I think my daisies look like they're going this way. So I wanted the card to be that way. So I've got this piece of Pretty Peacock that I cut to go behind this, and I thought that looked really nice to give it a border. And I thought, do I want it on there square? You can, just like that. And that would be a great card. I thought, you know, there's so many other ways we could do this. We're going to put this piece on. Then I thought, you know what? I could angle this piece on here like that. And I could put this piece on here like this. And then put this on. And I thought that looked interesting. So there's many ways that you can play around with this. The other idea I had was, often, as you know, the Stampin' Up! DSP, Designer Series paper, reverses over to something quite interesting and typically coordinates. So the other idea I had was taking the 2 pieces. I'm just going to look at the pieces. If I use this piece and this piece, and you could layer them on here like this. again, that gives it just a little interest and kind of changes it up a little bit. I wasn't as fussy about this side of it with what I've chosen with the Lost Lagoon, so I am going to go with this piece of Pretty Peacock cardstock. And again, I could just put it on square onto here and put it square onto here, or I could put it down in the corner. I could angle it. There's so many ways that you can adjust this paper to make it your own. All right, so let's get started. I have a whole bunch of other cards to show you with the same kind of layout with retired paper. All right, I'm going to start by putting the embossed piece of Lost Lagoon on. Now, this embossing folder, if you have it, called Time Worn Type, it really has, it has words on it, but they don't really say anything. But some of them, I like that I'm having them go the right way. So I do check out the way the letters are to make sure it's not upside down. So I'm looking at that word right there. So I think I will do it this way. And I am using my Tombow liquid glue. I would suggest that with an embossed piece or Terran tape. It helps to keep it nice and flat on your card base and it won't ripple up. All right, so that's on. So now we have to decide what we're going to do. And I like things at angles, and then you never have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be lined up correctly. So I think I'm going to go ahead and do that. Just gluing this on like that. And do I want it that way or this way? It doesn't really matter. And I'm going to have it coming off onto the white so that, again, it gives it a little bit of interest, making sure that I'm not going over any of the edges because it still has to fit into our envelope, right? All right. And then this piece on like that. And I'm going to change it up a little bit. And I think, just trying to think, I want that kind of in the middle. I think I will drop this down here like this. There. And that's it. Couldn't be much easier. Now, to dress up the front, of course, you can always add some kind of bling. My thought on this was, this is retired, this Simply Elegant trim, but I thought I might use some gold on here. And what I like to do with this is I will use my Stampin' Seal. Get it started a little bit. And I just put Stampin' Seal across the back of this. And then I can play with this trim and lay it around the back before I actually put it on the card. I'm going to wrap it around my hand a few times, about like that, I think. And I'm going to cut it off like that. And what I like to do is just take it, fold it in half. That's all possible here. And you can even twist it, or sometimes it twists on its own, and it just makes an interesting looking mess. So I think I will just lay it on the Terran tape. That's all I did. Just laid it down on the Terran tape. You can turn it over and you can kind of play with it now and spread it out however you would like it. And the Terran tape's there to hold it. So this piece got a little wonky. There. I think I will just move this piece back over here a little bit. There we go. That piece does not want to cooperate with me here. There. All right. Turn it over now. And then if I was to put it just on my card, it just gives it a little interest sake. So I'm going to put those up on dimensionals. And if you have to trim off your ends of your cord, you can. I see one of them is sticking out a little bit. That's okay. Take the paper off the back of your dimensionals and turn it over. And I think I like it right where I had it, right there. Oops. Let's make sure it's straight. And you can rearrange those a little bit again. All right. Now we could put, I also brought out some brass butterflies, and I thought I could put those on there. I thought they'd look good on the daisies. So maybe I'll have one going off the paper like that, just because you can see it a bit better on that darker color. And I do like them on the label, and they're fairly flat, so they shouldn't interfere with your envelope. And one more. I don't know if you'd lose them if you put them onto the daisies, but maybe I'll just put one right there on that yellow daisy. All right, so there's the outside of our card. I think turned out good. Lots of different ways it could have been laid out, as you saw. And now let's do the inside. For the inside, again, this is just the basic white. It's not the very thick. So I am going to add a piece of white, extra piece of white cardstock to write on, and it'll give it the back a bit of stability. And I thought, how am I going to dress the inside of this up? So I took the deckled rectangles and I cut a frame out of the Lost Lagoon, and I embossed it with the Time Worn type, and I'm going to put it on there and just drop that white piece in the inside. And that'll make it coordinate with the front of our card. Again, I'm using my Tombow glue to put this on. There we go. Right, put this in. Just like that. I'll put some glue on the white. This is for me to write on. The reason that I cut the center out is because if you laid this white piece on top of the embossed piece, it's kind of bumpy and would be a little trickier to write on. So I thought if it went into there flat, that would be better. So there's the inside of our card. There's the outside of our card, and it's going to stand up like a tent card. That's it. So I will show you the other cards that I made. I kind of got on a roll with this, so it's a really great way to use up your DSP. I went back into my retired stash of DSP, and I had some artfully composed paper. Some of you may remember this. So this, I'll show you I'll move that out of the way, show you the 6 different pieces. So what I did is I cut one strip like this of each piece of paper. So then I ended up with 4 of each piece. Okay, you see all these still? Sorry, I have to move them over a little bit so you can see them all. There is 6 of them. All right, and then of course they reverse to the other side. So you can do that. You know, you can always use the other side of your paper. So I will show you what I did with this. All right, so that's all those papers. So I ended up making 5 cards, and I used the opposite sides of the paper also. The one card I didn't make was this one because I used this piece. This coordinates with the dies to cut out the leaves. So I used this piece to cut out some of the leaves, and you'll see that on my cards. So just move this to the side. So these are the cards I made. So there's this one. So I used this piece, and I wanted, this is just a piece of cardstock on the back of it, and a die cut from the set, and I just stamped it on a straight piece. Now I did use some extra paper on the inside. This is a thick basic white, so I didn't have to add an extra piece of white here. So I added a little strip there. So again, if you don't cut your whole piece of 12 inch by 12 inch DSP up, then you'll have extra to use for your insides. So there's that one. And this one I embossed a back piece in Old Olive just to give it some interest. So that one, you know, has the extra layers, kind of like the card we just made. All right, then there was this one. I stamped right on the card base, Calypso Coral, and I used 2 pieces of the DSP. So for this one, I use this piece of DSP, and the reverse of one of these is green. Must be this one. So I use this, and I just put them together. I did die cut a leaf out of the paper, and then I die cut another leaf out of Calypso Coral. Like I said, I just stamped right onto here, making it very simple. And the inside, again, a strip of paper and a deckled rectangle. So there's that one. This one was done this way. And again, I used 2 pieces of the paper, this one, and it reverses over to the dot. So I used 2 pieces of the same DSP, and I die cut a leaf out, stamped it here, and there it is there. So there's another one. This one is done in the retired evening evergreen paper. Again, I used a piece of the paper. This is the reverse side of that piece, and the dark piece right there. Again, if your paper has a direction, you'll want to be aware of that. Most of these pieces could be either anyway. That it could have been that way, but I thought it looked fine going sideways. And then again, on the inside, that's what I did. And the last one out of that set I made was this one. So I used this piece of paper, and I went looking for the piece that reversed over. This piece of DSP does have writing on it, so you have to make sure that it's going kind of the right way. I die cut one of the leaves out of this set, and I die cut it out of this DSP, so it gives it some interest. Stamped a label, and you see how I offset them there a little bit differently. These ones are all sort of tilted like we made our card today. These are sort of straight, and then this one just like that. So there's lots of ways that you can use these pieces of DSP, and I think they're all great. They all turned out wonderful. All right, then I also chose some fancy Flora paper, which is 6 by 6 paper. So I got 2 pieces out of a sheet, and then I would have the extra for the inside. So I did this one, and this one is sort of the classic way that the other demonstrator had done it, with just a backing. So I did emboss this with the cane weave embossing folder, and this piece is 3 by 4 inches, and then just a label on it and the inside. So that's square and just sort of the traditional way. Then I did this card on the evening evergreen with a different piece of the paper, and it's a tent fold this way, and I just offset them with a greeting, very simple. And there's the inside. And last I did this one, and I ended up with 3 pieces. So I had the 2 pieces of DSP, and then I cut an extra piece of cardstock, 3 1/4 by 4 1/4, to mount this one on, because I thought that really brought out the colors in this one. And then the inside. So that one's done on Daffodil Delight. All right, so those are all the cards I made. Very quick, very easy. Once you've cut your papers, you can sit and play, rearrange them, cut out extra cardstock if you want backing on them, like this one, and you're set to go. All right, so I will put, there's the card we made today using the Cheerful Daisies suite and adding a little bit of extra to it. So I hope you enjoyed that. If you did, please give me a thumbs up, and you can subscribe to my channel so you won't miss any of my Tuesday videos. And this month I will try to focus on DSP again. I did do that in January, February, March. I focused on DSP. So if you go back to some of my older videos, you'll get lots of good ideas about different ways to use the DSP. Okay, I hope everybody has a great week, and see you next week.